Good morning, Year 2. It's Miss Addy. Our learning question for maths today asks us, can I measure length using standard units of measurement? Our steps to success say, I can recognise which is the longest side of an object. I can use a ruler appropriately to measure an object's length, and I can record my answer in standard units of measurement. Our first star word today is the word length, which we learnt about in yesterday's lesson. We also have the word measure because we are learning to measure length. We have the phrase standard units, which we're going to explore a little bit later on. Yesterday we were learning about non-standard units. We've got the word centimetre, and we're going to find out what this means later on. And we also have the words longer and shorter. They're used to compare length. So what is length? Can you remember from yesterday's lesson? Length is a measure of the longest side of an object. To find the length, we need to measure. The length is the longest side, so we can see the red sides show the length. The green sides do not show the length. And that's because the red sides show the longest side of the object. In yesterday's lesson, we learnt about measuring using non-standard units of measurement. And this means using items that we can measure with that we wouldn't normally use to measure with. And we have to follow 3 keys, that means 3 special rules when we're using non-standard units of measurement. We need to make sure that we use objects that are the same size so that our measurement is fair. We also need to make sure that we start at the edge of an object and that when we're measuring, we don't leave gaps and we don't overlap. Can you remember any of the non-standard units of measurement that we explored yesterday? We could use cubes to help us measure, or sweets, or paper clips, or pieces of pasta. We could even use our own handspan or our own feet to help us measure. But today we're going to learn about standard units of measurement. Standard units of measurement are measurements and tools that are common in our world today. So these are tools that we would usually use to help us measure length. Do you know any tools that we would use to help us measure length? We could use a ruler. You might have these at home, and I'm sure you have them in your class. A ruler is a standard unit of measurement because it uses centimetres, which we use quite often to help us measure length. Can you think of any other tools we could use? We could use a tape measure. You might have one of these lying around your house. They help us to measure longer distances and bigger objects. We could also use a meter stick. Now you might have seen these at school. Today we will be learning to measure using a ruler. You might already know how to use a ruler, but today we're going to learn all about the standard units on a ruler. A ruler measures using a standard unit of measurement. I wonder if you know what that standard unit of measurement is. There are 2 sides of a ruler. If you look at both of these sides of the ruler, you can see numbers on them. This side of the ruler measures in something called inches. Can you say that? Inches. And this side of the ruler measures in something called centimetres. Can you say that? Centimetres. Today we will be measuring using centimetres. We can easily find which side of the ruler we need to use because it will say cm. And cm is short for centimetre. And on the rulers, you might see lots of little lines. These little lines are called intervals. And these intervals show us something called millimeters. Can you say that? Millimeters. Sometimes we write mm because it's a lot quicker. So in between each number on a ruler, there are lots of little intervals, lots of little lines, and these show us millimeters. And there are 10 little lines, so that means there are 10 millimeters within 1 centimetre. So we can measure using centimetres and we can measure using millimetres. But there are special steps that we need to follow when we are measuring using a ruler. Step 1. We need to place the 0 centimetre mark on the ruler at one end of the object. So if we're measuring our scissors here, we need to make sure that the end of the scissors, the tip of the scissors, is by the number 0. We do not measure from the end of the ruler. We always start from 0 centimetres. Step 2. To find the length of the object to the nearest centimetre, we need to round the length up or down. Looking at this paper clip, it doesn't end on number 5 and it doesn't end on number 6. But it's a little bit closer to 6 than 5, so we can round it up to 6. So this paper clip is 6 centimetres long. Step 3. If we wanted to be really specific, we could find out how many millimetres long it is. So we could count the intervals of the little lines to work out how many millimetres it is, because we know there are 10 millimetres in 1 centimetre, but that's quite tricky. And step 4, we need to write down the length of our object. So we write down the number, but it's very important that we write cm after the number for centimetres or mm after the number for millimetres. So have a look at this rubber here. Do you think this has been measured correctly? Have we lined it up against 0? You're right, we have. We started measuring from 0 centimetres. And we can find the length of the object to the nearest centimetre. This rubber is exactly 5 centimetres long. Have a look at these two pictures. Which one is correct and how do you know? Pause the video to have a little think. Well done if you got it right. The first picture is correct, and that's because the pencil has been measured correctly. It started measuring from 0 centimetres. The second picture, it hasn't. They put the tip of the pencil by the number 1. When we measure, we always start from 0 centimetres. It's very important. You can help me with this year too. Let's measure the crayon to the nearest centimetre. Shout it out when you know it, and don't forget to say centimetre after. Fabulous. This crayon is 10 centimetres long. Shout it out when you know it. How long is the pencil in centimetres? Great, it's 13 centimetres long. It lands exactly underneath the number 13. What about the rubber? Shout out the answer when you know it. It's 3 centimetres long. Well done if you got that right. And well done if you said centimetres after the number. What about the paperclip? How long is the paperclip? It's 8 centimetres long. There's something a little bit strange about this picture here. Have a look at the sharpener. What do you notice about this picture that's different to the other pictures? That's right. it doesn't end exactly on a number. It doesn't end on the number 3, and it doesn't end on the number 4, because we're measuring to the nearest ½ centimetre. This sharpener lands in between 3 and 4. It lands halfway in between. This means our sharpener is 3.5 centimetres long. That sounds really tricky, but that's a mathematical way of just writing 3.5 centimetres long. So our sharpener is 3.5 centimetres long. You might be able to help me with this problem now. How long is the paintbrush? The paintbrush is 10.5 centimetres long. How long is the pen? The pen is 13.5 centimetres long. It's a little bit trickier because it's halfway between 13 and 14, 13.5 centimetres. Mo has used the ruler to measure the length of the car. Mo says the car is 8 centimetres long. Pause the video and have a think. Do you agree with him or not? And can you explain your answer? No, I don't think so either. Mo is incorrect. He's incorrect because his car wasn't placed exactly on 0 centimetres. He's placed his car on 1 centimetre. And what's the special rule we need to follow when measuring using a ruler? We need to make sure that we begin measuring from 0 centimetres. Your task for today, Year 2, is I'd like you to find 3 different objects in your house and measure them using a ruler. You'll need to record the length of the objects and make sure that you write cm after. So you need to record the length of the object and write cm because cm means centimetres. Enjoy your task, Year 2. Goodbye.